If there were betting odds, like if we did a poll, why do you think Andrew Tate was banned from all the social media platforms? And it was misogyny, right? You know, COVID stuff, against the government, against system. If you were a betting man, where would you kind of place the odds?
Oh, I already know. Everybody already knows I was banned because I talked against the system, against the Matrix. They
Just
know
the system in general.
The system in general, yeah. I mean, someone compared me to Socrates, which is a compliment, but he was vilified. He ended up poisoning himself in Athens, and the charge against him was corrupting the youth. If you read about his poisoning and his arrest, they said he was corrupting the youth, but he wasn't corrupting them. He was inspiring them to challenge authority. He was inspiring them to think for themselves.
Right.
When they were told something, instead of blindly complying, he said, look, analyze who these people are who are telling you to do X. And I even had a tweet I put out on my, I've been banned on Twitter forever. So I've been through 20 Twitter bans. I come back as undercover, whatever. But I've been saying I said, if you have a point of view that you are very strong in your adherence to, if you truly believe something, you need to sit and analyze whether it's your own personal experience that makes you believe something, or if someone else or something else has convinced you of this. And if they have, you need to then once again analyze that point of view and analyze who these people are and what they want from you. Do they truly want the best of you? If the news convinces you of something to the point where you're going to argue with your own family members at a dinner table, does the news really care about you more than your family? This is a genuine question. You need to analyze every belief you hold, where it came from, and then analyze what their intentions are. And if you start to do that, you look at something like COVID, for example, it's an easy one. And you look at all the bullshit they were saying, and you sit here and go, wait, these people don't care about me. If I had diabetes or I needed insulin, or if I had cancer, or if I got in a car crash, anything, they'd be hitting me with medical bills I could never possibly afford. They'd let me die. But they are insisting I take this shot for free, on repeat. This doesn't make sense. And when you encourage people to think for themselves, especially the youth, that's what Socrates got accused of. He's corrupting the youth. And to be honest with you, a huge portion of my fan base were 18 to 23, 24-year-old males. When you have the youth, the masculine youth of the world, thinking for themselves, that's pretty scary to authority. Because it's the masculine youth of the world that is, one, the revolutionaries, and two, also, that's the backbone of the slave force. If you need people to go die in a ditch in Afghanistan, you need them. If you need people to work bullshit jobs in a coal mine with no health care, you need them. If you need people to blindly comply to bullshit, you need them more than anybody, more than you need the feminists and the liberals. You need the real men to go out there and comply with the bullshit, to live a shitty existence, to purport and prop up a system.
The warrior class.
The warrior class, right? And if enough of these men stand in one place and say, this is enough, that's when a revolution happens. Mm-hmm. So this is the most dangerous group of the demographic that the Matrix and the people are trying to control, and they have to have a narrative over. And that's why they're trying to weaken them in every regard. And when I'm sitting there saying, don't listen to the bullshit, become physically strong, think for yourself, prioritize your brotherhood above what the fucking Matrix is telling you, do not blindly comply, resist the slave mind, all these things I'm saying, they just sat there one day and said, wait, the most popular person on the planet is saying, don't listen to our bullshit. Delete.
If you enjoyed this video and you want to watch the entire podcast.
Yeah. I don't have much to add to that. It's pretty spot on. Yeah, Socrates was accused of corrupting the youth. And he was just telling them to think for themselves in a way that took authority away from the government at the time. Took it away from the state, and they just weren't having that. You know, a lot of what Socrates did was took into question the idea of the gods and the importance of the gods, and why are we doing certain things just because of this mythological story about Zeus sleeping with this human to create a son. Like, it's like, are these really things that we need to take into consideration while living our lives? And should we listen to the people telling us that we have to listen to them because they were put in authority positions years ago based on, some other, silly story? So, yeah, I mean, when you start questioning authority, shit pops off. The video is Socrates was killed for corrupting the youth. He wasn't killed, he killed himself. he was sentenced to death, but he drank poison and killed himself, which is sad. But the rest of the title goes, is Andrew Tate a modern-day Socrates? I wouldn't say he's a modern-day Socrates at all. I mean, Socrates, well, you know, maybe I'm holding Socrates up too high. I mean, the idea of Socrates, he never wrote anything, but his student Plato wrote a bunch of dialogues with the entity, the person, Socrates, as the main character in these dialogues. And so a lot of the things that we have quoted of Socrates is from other people's writings about him. So, yeah, I mean, one of his things was trying to look at reality in a more, I wouldn't say materialistic way, but in a more realistic, a realistic way. But yeah, I mean, some of the things that Socrates talked about, like the analogy of the cave, where people in the cave were seeing things on the wall, and it was only reflections of the shadows behind them on the wall, but they thought the shadows were the real thing. And then the story goes on. One person steps out of the cave and sees that the light that was shining on them was actually the sun, and that there's this whole world out there, and that the objects on the wall are not the objects that they're actually seeing. And so he goes back into the cave and tells the other people, and the other people are like, "No, you're crazy. Like, that's not true." And so that's the philosopher, right? The one who brings truth to bear and tries to see things as they are, instead of based on a shadow of something. And a lot of what he got in trouble for was bucking authority and the state. The officials in the state were the authority, and yeah, like you said, you can't have the workforce, the male workforce, not listening to you, because that's how you, as a state official or government leader, you get things done, is you tell people to do things. But if the men are saying, "Nah, I'm not going to do it," well, you lose a lot of your power. And what do we know about powerful people? It's a very hard thing to give up power. So you don't just get a little bit and then give it back. That's not how it goes with power. So yeah, I mean, I guess he is in many ways reflecting the same spirit that Socrates was giving out. So yeah, it's true.